Trojans Talk Research is a monthly spotlight on the research interests of Troy's faculty, presented by Troy University's Office of Sponsored Programs. This month features the Sorrell College of Business's Department of Decision Systems and Sciences. Leadership Ph.D. student Mary Joann Rouse will discuss 3 working papers.
Okay, I have 3 presentations. I have a varied group of interest. I want to first thank you all for taking your time to come hear this presentation today. My first presentation is going to be coaching in higher education. Teachers shifting role, and we're shifting roles because the world is changing. And if we integrate AI and some of the smart technology, we get the opportunity to actually engage with our students more. I'm also working on another paper having to do with teachers, coaching teachers as we move forward in this AI integration. But we're going to concentrate on students right now. The world our students are facing is changing. It is not the world that I started out in. It's not the world that you started out in. You're much, much younger than I am. Technology, increased speed of information transmission. Smart education technology is a platform that is being heavily used in education today. Third, there's the advent of artificial intelligence. You've all heard about ChatGPT. We're all being told it's going to do away with 8 out of 10 jobs. We're being told that no, it's going to create more jobs. We're being told that it is very dangerous. We're being told no, it's a tool. So we're on very opposite ends of the spectrum. So globalization, global employment market with fierce competition for jobs, career lifelong learners. It used to be that you work in a small area. We don't compete with the people in Troy. We don't compete with the people in Montgomery, South Alabama, or just the United States. The global job market is everybody in the world. So we need to know who we're competing against, and we need to know that we are educating for that group. Okay, the world is volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous. The job market is literally changing every 5 years. Governments are unstable. So we have to be prepared. Did anybody expect COVID? No, blindsided. Maybe 3 months warning. COVID was the first, but it will not be the last world pandemic. And I'm not saying that to be scary. I'm saying we need to be prepared. Why? Teaching historically. Sage on the stage. I have all knowledge. I will instruct you on that knowledge. That's pretty much been a lot of what professors have done. Our teachers have done. That's historical. Textbooks. Here's a textbook. Read it. Teacher-centered. I know that's part of pedagogy, but not where I want to go. Teacher source of knowledge. I'm limited in what I know. I think that you deserve as students the knowledge of multiple instructors who can help you. So, struggle for engagement. This is how I learned, so this is how you should learn. Reading, individual, lecture, exercises, which are generated to gear to all professions. It's very broad and spectrum.
Then teaching is evolving. Subject matter experts, guides willing to engage. This is where we need to go. Smart education technology with an AI platform so that the smart education technology, and we're using that already, but not so much on an AI platform. It needs to be more engaging. Individualized knowledge and personalized lessons can come out of an AI platform on smart technology. Increased engagement. Your millennials and Gen Zers, this last year, I have taught nothing but Generation Z, okay? So my class demographic is shifting, and Ms. Thomas and I, every 2 years, we take a look at the demographics of our student, how they like to learn, and we try to incorporate their methods of learning into our overall course details. So, millennials and Gen Zers like collaborative learning, teams. They like video. They like smart educational technology, delivers individual and personalized lessons, exercises geared to specific careers. You remember I talked about knowledge used to be dispersed as general knowledge? They're coming in, I don't want to know what engineering does with this. I want to know, I want to be in the medical field. Where does this apply to the medical field? And that's something that smart educational technology and AI can do for us. Gen Z has specifically said in survey after survey that they like teachers as coaches. They don't see themselves as the teacher knows all, but they do see that teachers can provide guidance on their career path. Okay. So I'm going to go through millennials very quickly because this is an exiting demographic, but they will still be here for another 5 to 6 years in higher education and in online classes. Millennials were born between 1980 through 1994. In 2023, the youngest is 29 and the oldest is 42. These millennials, by 2025, will be the largest workforce in the world. They favor collective actions, group and teamwork, have tech skills, but only in reference to direct need. Favor focused learning that has practical application, personalized lessons, short attention span, micro or nugget learning. They no longer want to have a 50-minute lecture. They want a 10-minute lecture, go apply it. A 15-minute lecture, go apply it. So they want that very quick turn, okay? They challenge authority. Teachers must listen and rebut with proof of what our teaching methods are used for. They crave recognition and value research, but they particularly like Google. Their research is coming off Google. So there is a definition of what is an authority or what is just somebody on TikTok. Okay? Now, Gen Z. The largest population in the classroom today, 1995 through 2012, the youngest is age 11 and the oldest is 28. 100% of my students, both in the classroom this year, was Gen Z. Now, my online class was mixed. Learning characteristics include, go ahead and just, prefer hands-on learning, tech savvy, but not tech literate. Gen Z actually has a fear of technology. So we're going to have to overcome that. This is the generation that has grown up hearing about identity theft, that they are scared of what technology can do or how it can interrupt their life. Millennials will, oh, this is something new, I'm going to become very tech savvy with it. So millennials are not as integrated into their life. So anxious and depressed due to high social media contact, COVID, and isolation. These are some of the characteristics. They prefer a collaborative, so they like to work in teams or small groups. They don't learn through lecture. They like small videos, again, everything compressed. They prefer hybrid learning, sometimes in class, sometimes out, but not being held to a strict study, not to a strict routine. Want immediate feedback. Now, this is one of the things that smart educational technology facilitates. When I was growing up, you handed it in and it was a week, 2 weeks later before you got an answer. They don't want to wait. And educational theory also demonstrates that the faster you identify gaps, the faster you identify something you are doing wrong and correct that, it shortens the retention for education. You learn it faster. So they prefer these e-learning platforms for that reason. They see teachers as coaches. Literally, it's in what they're talking about. We need to meet the students where they are, not where we want them to be, but where they are. Gen Z is responsive to smart educational technology and AI. They are ripe for teacher coaches in the classroom. So, Benefits of SET AI, and I've combined smart educational technology and AI into the acronym SET AI. Reduces administrative process, so as a teacher I focus less on who is here and more on engaging with you as a person. So increased teaching resources, student focused, individualized lessons planning considering the beginning of knowledge level of the learner. So one of the things that we've started doing this year is actually giving a small little digital literacy test, and that's our platform. And then at the end of the semester this time, we gave that same test to our students and watched the results. Am I teaching what students need to know? Well, obviously the digital literacy test is a foundation. All students, no matter what overview, should have this knowledge to be considered digital literate. We found that scores tripled. The students did not score as digitally literate on Enter in classroom, but 16 weeks later, they scored an average of 80. It's not a bad score. So, it does personalized lesson plans. The lessons are targeted towards specific student educational careers. For instance, if you are in the medical field and we are discussing robotics, then this, a type of medical robot, would be what you got. If you are interested in art, then this would be the lesson you got on how robots are being incorporated, or AI is being incorporated into the art field, which will also bring up the concepts of privacy. It brings up the concepts of ownership, who actually owns the art if it's being created by an AI or a robot. Coaching is in our job as teachers, professionals, to get students to the other end of their educational journey with skills they need to succeed in today's environment, which is not the environment we grew up in. And as I've said, they are predicting, or currently your job skills change every 5 years. We are constantly having to re-educate ourselves in just about every job. To make this transition, teachers need tech skills for smart educational technology and AI integration, course and classroom design. We need an understanding of learning theory, understanding of new roles of teachers, and coaching knowledge. It is our job as teaching professionals to get students, well, that's the same comment. The United States government recognizes this. They have done several legal actions. Every Student Success Act, the Individual and Disabilities Education Act, Race to the Top Act, and Reading Excellence Act. These are focused on instruction and making sure that students get the support they need. Coaching can take place individually or in groups. It can also take place between peers. Students have specific professional goals. Teacher coaches develop interventions to maximize the student's potential growth outcome. So it's not releasing the smart educational technology or AI to be the teacher. It is teacher-driven, instructor-driven, to make sure that the student is getting what they need. Coaching uses a shared power dynamic which enables growth by both the student and the teacher. The teacher-student relationship requires trust, communication, and transparency to be successful. Peer coaching, students to student, example, really fits the Gen Z. Coaching benefits: increased engagement with material, increased engagement with their chosen career path, shortening that distance to graduation. Higher success rate for completion of program, lower dropout rates are one of the benefits of coaching, areas of teaching that have incorporated coaching. Increased sense of ability to accomplish their goals. Increased retention of subject matter over a longer period. Teacher coaches provide structure and support through life situations the students are experiencing. Inside each person is a negative voice that literally says, "You cannot do this." I've heard it. I've heard it in my head. Unfortunately, society often echoes that voice, reiterating negative feedback. "You're not good enough. Don't try." Coaches are the believers, the positive influence, the voice that says, "You can do it. Don't give up. You can do it all at once. If you can't do it all at once, break it down. Take it in small nuggets." That's where we get this 20-minute attention span from. What part is doable now, and what part will you do tomorrow? The theory that I've demonstrated here and that's involved in coaching, there is some pedagogy there which is teacher-driven. There's andragogy, which is students needing to know why they are learning as adults. You have a different mindset than students coming in and expecting knowledge to be given to them. Adults need to know why they're learning something and how is it going to apply to their life. You have machine learning. I'm going all the way back to Turing in 1950. AI learns a specific, it's not just programming, it's loops and it's algorithms and it's this failed and looking at the statistics there. Then you've got socio-technology theory, transformative learning, social learning theory, and I'm also looking at generational theory, that every 20 years we have a new generation, and that generation is impacted by what they have experienced in their growth phase. The Gen Zs are very affected by COVID. You've got the millennials that were affected by the towers. Every generation has pivotal moments, and it affects who we are, how we view the world, and how we interact with the world. So that's generational theory. I make 3 primary recommendations. I want to continue research into and implementation of teacher coaching programs in higher education around the early and deep integration of AI and smart educational technology. The second recommendation is for continued research and implementation of teacher coaching programs designed to facilitate teacher to student coaching engagement. The third recommendation is for ongoing research into Generation Z learners and the next generation as well, and their preferred learning style. Questions? Comments?
That was very interesting, and I have tons of notes and I'm going to bug you afterwards.
Okay. That's what I can't remember. When you get in front of it, I literally just hear buzzing in my ear.
Yeah,
So that's why I wanted y'all to write down.
I'm jotting things down and I'm going to, so something which you may be looking at eventually, and so I'm trying to learn to draw, right?
Yeah.
And I came across this book which some of you might already be familiar with. Somebody told me about it recently, drawing with the right side of your brain, or drawing on the right side of your brain. And it talks about the whole right brain versus left brain, and how, for example, people who suffer from dyslexia, it's like their left brain is less active than their right, like their right brain is more active, where they look at this holistic picture type perception versus being able to read words and getting information out. Is that something that might be applicable in the short attention span and how people learn today? Because there's so considerably less text involved than it was for us, and it's not even visual, it's something beyond visual now. You know, this amalgamation of...
I think that may have impact on why TikTok is such a growing, it's easier to learn that for some people. I have a very linear mind. Rather than looking at everything at once, it's okay, A works, B works, C works. Now if I combine A, B, and C, it should work, right? So
But
yeah.
that's not what's happening right now, which is what we're trying to sort of stay abreast of.
Yes. I don't know.
Exactly. No, I mean, we're, and like you said earlier, even if we do know, it's going to change very soon. So thank you. That was.
But that's an interesting thought. I will research it. My last presentation is what introduced me to generational theory, and I'm very fascinated with that. I have the mind of a gnat. I go from one topic to the next. Anybody else? Okay, my next one is about a shooting. Now, again, this is multiple papers. There was a shooting at Joe Louis', and Joe Louis' is a eatery, and it has a warehouse that supplies their food, okay, and they bring it in. So, the teaching notes, this has actually already been published as a case. But in the process of trying to further develop the notes that are given to teachers to fully expand on all the possibilities, if you'll flip your paper over, it's a question, you got it, you had it right. It's a long list, and what do you want to see? What do we need to explore from a teacher's perspective and provide them with that would fill out what students want to know, okay? The second thing is that I'm kind of using this, we've already started another paper on the shooting of Joe Louis' in the sense of what do we need to know as institution? What training is available out there for people if you are in an active shooter situation? How are the police trained? How are all of our military trained? What goes into that? And it's more of an HR paper on being proactive instead of being reactive. So it's kind of got a dual purpose here. Main is teaching notes. So, purpose today, to improve teaching notes for case with teaching notes, to improve the profession of teaching in higher education, to highlight the need for improved teaching notes across cases, to highlight new areas of human resource education that require special attention. And the other one, okay, this is our main focus though. Human resource education, we could not find a discipline module or other teaching object about firearms in the workplace. It's fairly recent. This has only been going on for about 10 years to this type of wave that we are seeing. Government guidelines indicate the need for workplaces to be safe. We all recognize that we don't want to, come to work every day in combat gear. California Workplace is an example. They had April 1 of 2017, Prevention in Healthcare. You've got OSHA. Recognizes its obligation to develop standards and guidelines to provide safe workplaces for healthcare and community service workers. These workplaces should be free from health and safety hazards, including fear and the threat of assault. I underline that one. Safety for human resource management lists workplace health, safety, and security as requirement content for the HMR curriculum. And yet there is no organized approach to prepare students, employees for active shooter events. Firearms, gun use in the United States routinely results in mass shootings. Mass shootings are defined as incidents that involve 4 or more victims. From January 1 through March 27, 2023, there have been 132 mass shootings in the United States. Notice this is not April, because last week, 18 in Texas. 1 week died, 18. So April is not part of those first sets of statistics. These shootings have resulted in 193 deaths and 498 injuries. Virtually all of these shootings have taken place in someone's workplace. However, HR students have no education about how to deal with a workplace shooting. 2020, 45,222 firearms-related deaths. Per capita death rate is 13.6 per 100,000 people. From 2000 to 2009, there were an increase from 3 a year to 40 a year by 2019. Overwhelmingly males are more likely to be killed. 86% are injured, 87 with a firearm. Now, let's talk about Joe Louis. 15-year-old male gets a job. He goes to a temp agency and they employ him. 1 week he's there. His family members work there as well. There was a shooting in the parking lot. He gets scared. He goes to the street and buys a firearm so that he has protection. This blind case was published in 2023 with teaching notes. We're filling that out. He goes to pick up a box while he's at work. Box shifts, hits the firearm, it falls, and he shoots himself in the foot. Okay? Manager on the site is employed by Joe Louis, was aware of the presence of multiple guns in the workplace. They had a sign, but there was no piece of equipment that did metal detection. There was no verbal warning, no interaction. They felt their legal responsibility was upheld by the sign over the door that said, "No firearms." Temporary agents suggest 18 improvements to curtail gun use in addition to a single sign that the employer was posting. The employer refused to make any of these improvements. And the victim was denied workers' compensation, even though he was in the hospital, because a drug test indicated the presence of THC in his bloodstream at the time of the shooting, which was also, he had signed the waiver that said he was aware, no guns and no drugs in the vicinity, in the workplace. Occupational safety, federal law enables you to a safe workplace. Your employer must keep your workplace free of known health and safety hazards. You have the right to speak out about hazards without fear of retaliation. You also have the right to receive workplace safety and health training in a language you understand, work on machines that are safe, receive safety equipment training, be protected from toxic chemicals, request OSHA inspections, speak to those inspectors, report on injuries and illness should be provided, and get copies of your medical records. Review records of work-related injuries or illnesses, and see results of tests taken to find workplace hazards. Current teaching notes highlight generic topics such as leadership, social responsibility, interaction of HR functions, and legal issues. They are extensive. They are intended to sensitize and provide a forum for discussing about the many issues surrounding a workplace shooting. On the list on the back, if you would tell me what content would help instructors use cases more efficiently. And I think I've given instructions on what one means. I think one means this is your type priority. So just go through that list if you would for me, please. And thank you. If you have any questions, you can send it to me. Like I said, we're developing another paper where we're going to go interview state police, local police, and a large metropolitan area police, because we've all have contacts there, and literally find out what kind of training they go to and what's being provided to the community, and be a little more proactive instead of not knowing anything about the subject of how to respond in an active shooter situation. I'm going to go ahead and move on to my next presentation then. Like I said, I have a very broad area of interest. I took Dr. Hink's class last year and got fascinated with coaching and mentorships, how they were very similar and how they are totally different things. Where coaching is geared to a task, mentorship is more related to the older initiating someone younger into an organization. Okay, so two different purposes, but they do kind of overlap. The theme here is we can do better. We are not providing the resources that instructors need in higher education. There's not a lot of coaching, there's not a lot of mentorship. And What are the issues? This is based on a study at the University of Tennessee where the research was conducted. Want to know why? What recommendations and comments and discussions are our agenda. Common knowledge and research. Mentoring has proven to be highly effective. It's like coaching. It's the right tool for certain times or certain situations. Every tool doesn't need to be applied. We need to choose the right one. The definition of mentoring is reciprocal learning relationship characterized by trust, respect, and commitment in which a mentor supports the professional and personal development of another by sharing his or her experiences, influence, and expertise. Okay, on the left you'll see 3 overlapping approaches, and on the right you'll see the definitions of each. So you've got transformative learning, creates more far-reaching change in the learner, which provides a significant impact, paradigm shift, and changes fundamental assumptions. It's a growing process. Situational learning, knowledge is posited to be a product of the culture, context, and activity in which it is used and developed. So the culture at a large corporation is going to be different than a small store. The culture at a large higher ed education is going to be different than a community college. So everything has a context. Constructivism approach based on the need to know. Adults are self-directed, and this is andragogy by Knowles. Adults have an abundance of prior life and work knowledge. Adults learn when they are ready and have a need to learn. Life-centered oriented to learning can respond to external motivators, but are primarily internally motivated. This is a task you need to do. Your supervisor gives it to you and you say, I don't know anything about it, and the response is, go learn it. Okay? That's motivation. You have to learn it in order to maintain the job, but promotions are also tied to learning new skills. Learner approach appropriate social conduct through observation and imitation. It's how we learned to begin with. We watched our parents, our community. It's how we learned to be social. When mentoring junior faculty, more likely to be published in peer-reviewed journals. Now, for my students, that may not mean anything, but for academia, it's publish or perish is the old saying. Likely to be more productive, efficient, and motivated with a mentor. Institutions of higher education routinely do not provide adequate support for mentors or mentees. Limited research on mentoring in academia. There's a lot of research on mentorship, but not so much how it takes place in academia. It's valuable. Formal mentorship is good use of their time. Junior and senior faculty agreed that the program needs oversight. You just can't say, here, go find a mentor. There needs to be people who've said, yes, I am willing to mentor, and you establish a rapport. Junior faculty want accountability. Be sure mentoring happens, it is good quality, and is beneficial. You understand the difference. If you've ever had a mentor and there was no feedback or there was no engagement, that's poor mentoring. You need somebody who can show you the ropes, give you advice, but also listens to your concerns. Senior faculty comments, mentees do not understand greatest need and are not related to research and promotional tenure. Effective mentors and programs believe socio-emotional, personal, and interpersonal are key to developing a relationship of trust. Lack of senior faculty, especially in underrepresented minority faculty, must count as service. It must be recognized that you are mentoring. It takes time. Time is a commodity, it's a resource. Comments were that junior faculty really needed time management, work prioritization, and work-life balance. Who do I go see about this information? Informal and formal program differences. Survey found informal may exist even if mentees have a formal mentor. And again, this is where I was talking about may not meet with their mentor. Junior faculty need engagement And according to the University of Tennessee, department heads may not value mentoring. Consequently, there's no recognition in your job responsibilities or your productivity that you are doing that task. Senior faculty, common reasons for not engagement. Faculty shortage, we're all trying to do more with less. Lack of interest, overloads just to get the job done. Personalities have to match. What's in it for me? I never had a mentor. Why should they need a mentor? Not valued by the department or administration, not receiving load reductions or any kind of recognition. Some want to mentor, others may be reluctant. Ph.D. United States is the most individualistic country in the world. Getting us to either mentor or be a mentee is sometimes difficult in the United States. Traditional Ph.D. journey is done solo, and I did it by myself. They can do it by themselves. That's one of the mentalities that is pervasive. Faculty are resistant to change. Why? Junior faculty need time management, work prioritization, and work-life balance. There was a program at Berkeley in 1970 that was innovative for undergraduates, and it was called the Strawberry Creek College, which was terminated by faculty committee before they reviewed the results. Just terminated the program, against which these unconventional cases were judged. Mary Bergen, former General Secretary of the AAUP, wrote in her book 2016 that reformist programs revolving around pedagogy, that this is not creating a balance in pedagogy. And endowments affect my things gain value because I created them. And that's when we come into teaching in higher education, we are subject matter experts, but nobody taught us how to teach. You don't get an education while you're learning data analytics and how to be a teacher of data analytics or technology. So a lot of what we are learning as faculty members has to do with personal growth. How do I do this better? As a teacher, I've got all this knowledge. How do I get it presented to students in a way that helps them learn? And we could do with somebody who's been there before us, mentoring us through that process, giving us tips and hints. Faculty consider themselves individuals, isolated as an inherent part of teaching. It's an individualistic endeavor. Or walk into the room and have two teachers at once? You get one. Thus, any effort to improve teaching and learning threatens endowments. Departments usually support specialized research, support faculty privacy, and autonomy, which further supports resistance and isolation. There's not a lot of support in teaching us how to teach. Interest to pursue scholarship of teaching and learning. We have to be interested in that. Recommendations for institutions of higher education: do this. Stop creating anti-change endowments. It's my stuff. Link faculty endowments to collaborative activities. We'll support you in doing that research, but you've got to come back and present that research to other people, such as basically what we're doing here. Allow faculty to design the changes. Create channels outside the department, such as multiple disciplinary work groups. I teach in technology. Technology is not isolated to a technology department. We're all using it. I can learn from other instructors, just like you as students learn from other students. And we need to do research collaborations together. Institutionalized mentoring, not just one school or department, multiple disciplines. Develop purposeful programs with rewards, recognition, measurable goals and activities, and accountability. Train and recognize mentors. Send us to training so we can help better. Reward good practices, establish best practices, maintain a database for reference purposes, allow and encourage flexibility, listen to the faculty, do research on mentoring at each individual institution. We want to establish some minimal standards for mentoring. Policies and bylaws should be flexible. Clarify everyone's expectation before beginning. What are your operational strategies, specific and attainable goals? The SMART set is a good reference there. Time frame, expectations for the relationships, and they also recommend signed agreements. This is what I will do for you. This is what I expect from you. You can outline things like we're going to meet once a week. We're going to identify and work on these 3 problems. Get it in a contract format. Questions?
No, that's also, again, something that all of us can relate with. Just the fact that when you are getting your doctorate from a research institution, there's very little focus on training you as a teacher. All the focus is on training you as a researcher. I think there are very few departments and very few schools who maybe do like a seminar on
Teacher.
instruction.
Yeah. Because most PhDs go back into academia.
Yeah. But also, off and on, I think there have been, like when you join a university as new faculty, once again, there are very little formal resources to sort of ease you into the teaching process. I've actually done some formal mentoring for online courses. Like I would receive this email from Inga and Dr. Fox. It's like, you are being assigned as a mentor to so-and-so, and thank you for your time and everything. And then I would walk that person through setting up their course and then video chat with them and like be available every time there was a crisis. And like I had access to their Canvas shell as well. So we have done a little bit of this.
And I was assigned a mentor who met with me once during my first 16 weeks here.
My mentees have my cell number. I have done, Teams calls with them. I have done Teams calls with them while we were both in their course to figure out what's happening where, which is why what's not working, or even it's like, how do I handle this student situation? So like we have done that, but it has been, formally it has been for online courses, but informally, of course, we're there. We talk with our newer colleagues all the time.
Did you receive mentor training?
I did not receive mentor training.
And see, this
Having said that, I wonder if did anyone else in the room do that QM
Quality Matters.
Quality Matters
training? So I had done that. So I don't know if that somehow qualified me to be a mentor for an online course, but no, we don't really receive any mentor training. Yeah.
And like I said, my first was like one time. And then it was, well, if you need me, call me. Well, if you don't know what you're doing wrong, how do you know to call somebody? We have a program where our chairs come and review our classes. But now you're looking at overworked chairs. How often has that happened? And that's what we're advocating for, is a more formality to the process, that people who are interested in being mentors get help in the process of learning how to mentor. But I agree with you, sometimes observing what happened to you teaches you good behavior, and it can show you what not to do. So, Dr. Bowler.
Could you go back to slide 7?
7?
Yeah.
This one?
Yeah, so I like what you're saying there, and I agree with all that. One of the problems, I think, is sometimes senior faculty, or they learned how they learned. And like you pointed out in earlier presentations, things are changing. And so just like an old general that won using old thoughts, they are, like a lot of times you'll see Gen Z says the boomers, they don't know what it's like to try to get a job nowadays. They're saying, oh, just do this and do that. And that's kind of antiquated advice, if you will. And as you pointed out, things are changing. And so if you have someone who's been in the business for maybe 15, 20 years and how they taught and everything, they need to keep refreshing how things are working now. Because if they try to say, mentor junior faculty, say this is how you do it, and they're using 20-year-old lessons, thoughts, it might not work out as well. It can continue that old kind of paradigm of this is how things are done.
Yes.
Another thought also, I think it's slide 9, when you went there. And I really like the idea of a mentor. In aviation, they have, you have pilots, and then you have an instructor pilot that teaches new pilots. Then you have an instructor that teaches people. So like you were saying, a mentor that has been trained by someone who's used to mentoring and saying this is a better way to mentor. So lessons learned. So those are really good ideas. But
Thank you.
But the resources to try to make those things happen, that's always been the problem.
Absolutely.
The time, the money, and then how do you set people up? You mentioned it, I think, on another slide, you talked about rewards and recognition for doing those things well. So, but it has to be institutionalized. It has to be part of this is how we do things.
Which is, again, this is how we do things. The philosophies. So we need both. I think we need both. Mentors and coaches, and I think that we're going to provide these resources. Now you figure out which resources will work for you. Thank y'all. I appreciate your coming so much. If you'll leave your notes, I would appreciate those because I'll distribute them to the other people working on all these papers.
Trojans Talk Research is a monthly spotlight on the research interests of Troy's faculty, presented by Troy University's Office of Sponsored Programs.